Hi peeps, I'm Steve, and I have thoughts on all the things I wish I knew before I started taking Ozempic. The first thing I wish I knew was what the difference between Ozempic and Wegovy was. Actually, I did know this, but I figured let's get it out of the way first. If you were to squirt some Ozempic in one cup and Wegovy in another cup, and gave both those cups to a lab, they would not be able to tell them apart. They are exactly the same thing, and both made by the same company. So why two names? Well, thank the US medical system for this confusion. Insurance companies love money, not you. They are totally up for paying for some medicine if it costs less than the other treatments for what's wrong with you. Diabetes is really bad and can cause all kinds of horrific things. Blindness, having feet or hands that need to be amputated. It's bad and expensive. Blindness is taken care of by the US government, but amputations are the insurance company's problem. Insurance companies don't mind cutting off a few toes or fingers, except that the US government insists they do it in a hospital, and so that costs money. A lot of money. Semaglutide, the drug that is in Ozempic and Wegovy, treats diabetes. And it's cheaper than cutting off a foot. So insurance companies are willing to pay for it. Novo Nordisk creates Ozempic, and people with type 2 adult onset diabetes start taking it. But a strange thing happens. People on it start losing weight. In some cases, a lot of weight. It turns out that most people with type 2 diabetes are actually fat. And most people that have type 2 diabetes have it because they are fat. It's like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and other conditions. Many people that have these only have them because they are fat. They lose weight and they go away. But none of the treatments for those conditions make you lose weight. My high blood pressure pill costs $4 a month without insurance, just to fix my high blood pressure. It doesn't make me thinner. So while Ozempic is cheaper than chopping off one of my feet, it's a heck of a lot more than my $4 BP meds. So insurance companies won't pay for Ozempic for someone like me. I don't have diabetes, just high blood pressure. $4 for my BP meds is sure a hell of a lot less than $1,000 for Ozempic, and so the insurance companies say no weight loss for you. Now, Novo Nordisk are not dummies. They said, fine, we're going to change the name for fat people, and we don't care if it's cheaper for you to not treat fat people. We know people will totally buy this on their own dime without insurance because people spend millions of dollars a year on all kinds of diet crap that doesn't work. They will totally spend $1,000 a month on something that does. And so Wegovy was born. In this video, I'm going to say Wegovy most of the time, but just know that almost everything applies to Ozempic and the generic semaglutide. If there is a difference, I'll call it out. By the way, I could totally be mispronouncing semaglutide. I have no idea how that's actually pronounced. If I get it wrong, let me know in the comments. I'm probably not going to care though. As you can see, I am fat. I'm not as fat as I used to be, and Wegovy has helped me to get to the size I am now. There is a ton of bad information about Wegovy, and I'm making this video to help dispel that. In addition, I had a lot of questions before I went on it that I couldn't find answers to. I'll be sharing those answers as well. So who am I, and why should you watch this video? I'm just a fat dude that has too many cameras and an intense curiosity to understand how things work. I have been fat all of my life. Chunky as a kid and obese as an adult. I'm lucky enough to not have type 2 diabetes, so I get to take Wegovy. Now, 10 years ago, I got to the same weight I am today using just diet and exercise. I did a lot of research on how to do that, and I approached Wegovy the same way. But I couldn't find answers to many of my questions. Frustrated with my weight loss, and hearing all the hype about Wegovy, I bit the bullet and just decided to go for it. Now this is part 3 of my series on weight loss and Wegovy. You don't need to watch the others to understand this one, but if you want to know more, I encourage you to watch parts 1 and 2. In part 4, I cover what it's like to actually be on the drug. One more thing. I am a highly paid tech bro. I am not in any way associated with anyone that sells or makes Wegovy or Ozempic or the generic semaglutide. I am never going to ask you to join my secret OnlyFans or to send me money. If you feel you learned something, I ask that you hit the like button. That way, the great YouTube algorithm in the sky might decide someone else should watch this too. Now, if you really love it, I do ask that you give $5 to the next homeless person you see, and don't worry about what they will spend it on. If you have an eating disorder or a medical condition that impacts your weight, this video is not for you. Get the heck off YouTube and talk to a real medical specialist that can help you deal with your conditions. This is not medical advice. Whether you should take these drugs or not is a decision you should make with the help of a licensed medical professional. I am not one. I am also not someone who's big on the whole, do your own research, don't believe the man. Most people are too uneducated to understand the research, and I rely on professionals most of the time. Each time I cross a bridge, I have great faith in the engineers that designed it and the construction workers that built it. I would never walk across a bridge I built. Surprisingly though, my first tip is to not trust your general medical professional to know much about Wegovy. Getting my prescription was super easy. My regular doctor had recently moved on, and I was going to a new nurse. She was like, "Yep, you're fat. Why not?" I was prepared to do some begging and pleading, but no dignity was lost. As I mentioned, I'm a tech bro, and I assumed I was going to have to pay for it too. Somehow, my insurance covered the bill. More on that later. So, before it sank in, I was stabbing myself with my injector pen. Which brings me to the second thing I knew before I started taking it. Wegovy is for life. This is not some miracle drug that changes how you view food and how your body processes it. If you have Wegovy in you, your body treats food differently. Stop taking it and your body is right back to the same way it always worked, and you will gain all the weight back. You might even get a few bonus pounds. Now, this scares a lot of people, and I have no idea why. It bothers no one that you have to take your high blood pressure medication every day. No one says, "My cholesterol is down. I'm chucking this Lipitor prescription. I took Viagra last month. I'm cured. Send in the co-eds." Nobody says that. These are all drugs that treat a chronic condition. You stop taking the drug, your condition will return. You've probably been fat your whole life, just like me. Want the drug to work? You stay on the drug. It's that simple. Which brings me back to the first thing I didn't know. When I went back for my first checkup, I was in for a little rude surprise. The nurse, who had been so easy to get my initial prescription from, must have had more time on her hands for my second visit. To be fair, I was not having a great day, and I was not in the best of moods. One of her first questions to me was, what was my exercise routine? Of course, I had none. Wegovy works without exercise. More on this later. But I was losing weight and I didn't need exercise, so I wasn't doing anything. So, the skinny little 50-year-old Nurse Ratched, that had probably run a marathon that weekend, launches into the whole diet and exercise are necessary for your health, the scolding straight out of a 1950s junior high health textbook. I cut her off. I told her I am not in the mood for an argument about diet and exercise. Now, if you've watched my video on diet and exercise and why it doesn't work for weight loss for most people, you know I am educated on the subject and I have opinions. But her next question was what really shocked me. She asked me, well, once you've lost all your weight, what's your plan? And I was like, what? She repeated her question, and I responded, I'm going to stay on the drug for the rest of my life. She looked at me like I was crazy. Now, what I did not say was, I am going to stay on this drug for the rest of my life, like every clinical trial of the drug says that you must do. Because, of course, I have read NCT 03548987, Step 4, Long-Term Treatment Needed for Full Semaglutide Benefit. I've also read NCT 03693430, Step 5, Sustained Semaglutide Treatment Maintains Weight Loss. And these are both very clear. You stop the drug, you gain the weight back. I just assumed that if she was passing out prescriptions to every fat guy that asked, she had read these too. I made my next visit with a different nurse. Nurse number 2 said, and this is a quote, Well, your stomach will shrink as you lose weight. She might as well have pulled out a box of leeches. This is completely untrue. Your stomach in no way shrinks when you lose weight. Do me a favor, pull up the Googles, type in Cleveland Clinic, weight loss, stomach shrinking. See where it takes you. It's a very short article, about 2 paragraphs. It says, after losing weight, it may cause your stomach to have less elasticity, but in no way will your stomach shrink. I don't know about you, but if a doctor says something may happen, that's like me saying I may win the lottery. I am not going to bet my retirement on it. All right, so what is the problem here? First of all, these two were not weight loss specialists. They were just general practitioners who were trying to get one more case in and out of their office. For their entire professional lives, when faced with an overweight person, they were trained to say, diet and exercise. Not because it worked, but because there was no other option. If you watched my part 2 video, you know that 19 in 20 people that attempt weight loss fail. Even the ones that succeeded 5 years after their weight loss, 4 out of 5 of those people gained it all back. People with doctor's support don't do a hell of a lot better. For the longest time, doctors have had to peddle diet and exercise. And because medical people hate saying something like, this doesn't work for 99 people out of 100, but maybe today is your lucky day, so give it a shot. They make the 99% feel like they're the problem without admitting that their advice only works 1% of the time. Now, there is the occasional success, so it must be you and not them. Well, guess what? It's their crappy advice. But since the dawn of time, diet and exercise have been the only real option, so they had to say it. If they started off saying, this only works for 1 in 100, they would probably have worse results. So they've convinced themselves that you fat people are what's wrong and not the advice. In fact, one of the head medical researchers in Ireland just said medical people need to stop saying diet and exercise. So eventually, doctors and nurses will get the memo. Okay, we've identified that many medical folks aren't up to speed on these new drugs. What's the solution? Luckily, it's very easy to solve. There is one simple question you need to ask your medical professional when you start talking to them about Wegovy to make sure they actually know how to treat you. Hey doc, I'm thinking about going on Wegovy. If I start taking it, how long will I need to take it for? If they say anything other than for the rest of your life, then just thank them for their time and move along. Don't try to educate them. Don't argue. Just go find another doctor. Doctors get super persnickety when laymen try to educate them. And with all the, do your own research, man, I don't blame them. At some point, they will learn the truth, but it's not your job to educate them. All right, 1 thing I didn't know, 2 things I did. Back to the unknown. Just how does Wegovy work? Now, this is the real unknown, because I still don't know. And I'm pretty convinced that no one knows the real answer. If you read the articles, they all say that Wegovy slows the dumping of food out of your stomach and into the intestines. Okay, my stomach feels full because it takes longer for food to go through it, so I'll eat less. Whammo, I'm losing weight. Simple. Not so fast, buckaroo. Before I went on the drug, I read of numerous reports from other people that were talking about how it cured their drug addiction. Some people were stopping smoking because they just didn't feel the need anymore. Semaglutide has now entered clinical trials for these effects. So just how does slowing food exiting the stomach impact the desire to stop smoking or doing drugs? I have no idea, but my guess is that it impacts our brains as well. It's certainly impacting how I look at a plate of food. Early on, when I started taking the drug, sometimes I just had no appetite. Now, this was to be expected. What was unexpected was how some foods are not impacted at all, and I can still eat a lot of them. And other foods that I ate before made me completely nauseous now. I would look at something and my body would react the same way as if I was trying to eat something that was clearly not food. Things I'd eaten pre-Wegovy that were fine, now my body was saying, yo moron, step away from the cat puke. It was rare and infrequent, but there were just some foods I couldn't eat. Now this hasn't happened in a while, but I expect it to happen again. Clearly, Wegovy does have some interactions with your body that nobody understands. Now there's one thing I knew before I went on Wegovy that I wanted to make sure everybody knows, and I learned it the first time I lost weight. You do not get to choose where the fat comes off your body. I have a big old belly. This is not where I lose weight first. I'm beginning to suspect it's where I lose weight last. The first place I lost notable weight was in my feet. Yep, I'd always worn wide shoes. It never even occurred to me that if I lost 20 pounds, I'd need new shoes. So if you're proud of your booty and it starts going flat first, don't say I didn't warn you. Hit the Stairmaster and build up some muscle back there to take place of all that blubber that's melting away. Next point. A lot of people who learn that I'm on Wegovy comment on the side effects. Now here's the thing. I don't think I've ever had a side effect of Wegovy. What many people call side effects aren't directly from Wegovy. They're a side effect of how you are eating and how your body is changing. For example, I saw a headline that said, Wegovy makes you look old. I even had someone close to me who didn't know that I was taking it tell me how someone else they knew was on Wegovy and they were looking much older. Ah, the horror. Now, this person has told me all of my life I needed to lose weight to be healthier. I was shocked they would prioritize someone else's appearance over that person's health. Wegovy in no way makes you look older. Losing weight makes you look older. All that fat under your skin disappears, and guess what? You have some extra skin. It's gonna hang on you. Now, if you're in your 20s or younger, then maybe your skin is still elastic and it will shrink a little. I'm in my 50s, and this other woman was in her 70s. Yeah, if we lose weight, we're gonna have some saggy skin. It doesn't matter if we're using Ozempic or Wegovy or some miracle cure. Any way we lose weight, we're gonna have some saggy skin. There is no miracle weight loss plus skin shrinker drug. Be happy we have something that works for the weight loss. You're going to lose muscle. This is also completely true. You will lose muscle. But is it Wegovy? Heck no. Starve yourself and don't exercise, and sure enough, you will lose muscle. Ozempic is indeed making you starve yourself. Not enough that you're gonna die, but that's how you're losing weight. You're eating less, and you don't have to exercise. So you lose weight, some fat, some muscle. Your body needs to get smaller to survive on the lower calories. And your body isn't very picky on where it gets its energy. One more thing I knew before I started taking Wegovy. There is a new craze of people saying you shouldn't take this or that because you don't know what's in it. As my friends from the South would say, bless their hearts. Most fat people take multiple drugs. Lisinopril for their high blood pressure, Lipitor for their cholesterol, metformin for their type 2 diabetes, Viagra because their lisinopril interferes with their boom chicka now. My guess is none of these I don't know what's in it crowd knows what's in these either. And all these are for conditions caused because you're fat. Lose weight and you won't have to take all those drugs. And guess what? We do know what's in Wegovy and Ozempic. Semaglutide. And what the hell is semaglutide? It's a compound that's very similar to one your body naturally creates called GLP-1. Surprise, just like semaglutide, GLP-1 helps regulate your appetite. So maybe fat people just don't produce enough GLP-1, and that's why we overeat. At this point, the we don't know what's in it crowd starts having the vapors over how it's new and we don't know the long-term effects. Yeah, it's been around since 2008. It was approved in 2017 for diabetes. Yes, there are some risks. There's an increased chance of thyroid cancer. It could be bad. Have a discussion with your medical professional, just like you would before starting any medication. But this isn't some crazy, strange drug that was given to us by space aliens. The science behind it is well understood and solid. One more thing about how Wegovy works I wish I'd known. Wegovy stays in your body for a while. If you've done some basic research, you know that when you start Wegovy, you start with a small dose, and over several months you ramp up to the final dose. Now, Wegovy and Ozempic have different dosing schedules. Remember, Ozempic is really for diabetes. Its maximum dose is 2 mg, whereas Wegovy is 2.4 mg. You take a little more on the ramp up on Wegovy as well. It's hard to understand just how much you have in your system. Both versions stay in your body for almost 50 days. It takes 7 days for half of the drug in your body to disappear. When you're on the full dose, you really have about the same amount of Wegovy in your system as the amount you're injecting into yourself. At full dosage on Wegovy, you're bouncing between 2.4 and 4.8 milligrams over the course of the week. But if you discover you have a problem with it, remember it's going to take 50 days for it to flush out of your body. Of course, the thing everybody wants to know before they start taking Wegovy is, how much will you lose? That is the million-dollar question. As you can see, I am still fat. I have been on it for 10 months now, and on the full dose for quite a while. It's not been a smooth glide path downwards. There have been months where the needle did not move at all, and then other times when the weight was just shedding off. What the clinical studies say is that after 15 months, you will pretty much have lost all you're going to lose. In the early studies, people lost on average 16.5% of their starting weight. So all you have to do is multiply your weight by 0.165, and that is how much you'll lose. Weigh 300 pounds, and you will lose 49.5 pounds. Simple. Of course, it's not that simple. Let's look a little more closely at NCT 036-11582, shall we? In the study overview, it says, together with the medicine, the participant, the people in the study, will also be part of an intensive lifestyle program where the participant will have talks with the study staff about healthy food choices and what the participant can do to lose weight and be more physically active. It also says the study will last about 1.5 years. The participant will have 32 clinical visits with the study doctor. Now, if you watch my Why Diet and Exercise Don't Work for Weight Loss video, you will recognize that this is basically a doctor-supported weight loss program. If you're lucky, your health insurance actually covers a weight loss program. And if you'd like, you can have those every other week visits with Nurse Ratched where she scolds you to exercise. I suspect most of you are like me and are not planning to get scolded by a nurse on a regular basis. You just want to get poked once a week and lose weight magically. You will remember from part 2 of my series that doctor-supported weight loss programs do better than doing it all on your own. And if you look at the study results, you will see that the people who did not get Wegovy lost an average of 5.8% of their weight. This is much better than one would expect to see if you weren't in a doctor-supported program. So the number from the study is probably going to be on the high side. Good old Novo Nordisk did a little juicing of the results. Not the same way those miracle cat puke salespeople are, but they wanted to make sure that the results were as good as they could make them. It's not unreasonable to assume that when you're getting a prescription medicine, you'll have to visit the doctor on a regular basis. So this is nothing unethical. Now, when they did the Step 3 study, Novo was unsure how well it really worked. So they spent the money on it to make sure they got the best results. Lucky for us, Novo Nordisk kept doing studies, but now they knew it worked. And the old bean counters got into the picture and told the eggheads to spend a little less money. Lucky for us, NCT 038115574, Step 6, semaglutide addresses pathophysiology of metabolic syndrome in Asians, helps us out here. People in this study taking Wegovy at 2.4 milligram lost only 13.4 versus the 16.5 of their weight. And people not on the drug only lost 1.9. So what's going on? And wait a minute, why is this study with Asians? Maybe Asians lose less weight than other folks. That sounds kind of racist. My guess is that Novo wants to sell the drug in Japan and Korea, where these studies take place. And so they needed to do studies in Japan and Korea. Easy to study Asian people when you're in Asia. But the real clue to what's happening in this study comes from the study design. Just like in Step 3, it lasted for 1.5 years. But the old bean counters at Novo only had the participants meet with their doctor 14 times in person and 11 times on the phone. Wegovy is selling like hotcakes now. No need to pay a doctor for all these office visits. If you're like me, it's a lot easier to ignore Nurse Ratched if I only have to talk to her on the phone. So this study is probably a lot closer to what you should expect with the weekly jab and pray method. Back to how much will you lose. If you're on Wegovy at the 2.4 milligram and you aren't doing anything differently than you did before, you're probably going to lose a lot more like the Step 6 study at 13% than the Step 3 study at 16.5%. By the way, Step 6 also tested the 1.7 milligram maximum dosage, and these people only lost 9.9% versus the 13.4 for 2.4 milligrams. So the dosage matters. And remember, if you're taking Ozempic, its maximum dosage is only 2 milligrams. So people on Ozempic will probably lose less than those on Wegovy. I know, we aren't average. Other people are average. We are special and unique people. I know I'm not average. Yeah, whatever. I've put together a little test to tell you how much you can expect to lose. Here is a chart that represents how people in the study lost weight. As you can see, there are some people in the middle. Now, some people on one end didn't lose much weight. They're still on Wegovy, but it didn't work for them, or it didn't work very well. But there are other people on the opposite side that lost a lot more than 16.5%. So here's your test. Think of a number from 1 to 20. Pause the video until you have your choice. Do you really have your choice? All right, now look at the chart and find your number. That's you. That's where you will land. Well, not really. There's no way to know. I just want you prepared to not hit the average. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Oh, and if you chose 17, I intentionally made that the worst result. 17 is the most commonly picked number between 1 and 20, so don't feel bad. Where am I going with all this? What is my point? I think some of you are suspecting, but here we go. In the Step 3 trial, we had a well-supported weight loss program. Doctors visit every 2 weeks. In Step 6, we only had monthly visits and phone calls. Step 3 did better than Step 6. If you want the best results, you'll still have to do what is so hard. You still need to eat right and exercise. Wegovy is going to get you down a size without any real hard work on your part. If you're a double XL, you'll go to XL. 3X, you'll get to 2X. Remember, you need to have a BMI of 30 or higher to get the prescription. So that's double XL people and bigger. If all we do is just jab and pray, none of us is making it to a medium. Yes, we'll be 10 to 15% lighter, and that is great, but many of us are still going to be shopping in the big and tall store. And that is the big thing I wish I knew. Yes, Wegovy is great, a modern miracle of science. Honestly, I think everyone that needs it should be able to get it. Being a size smaller is a huge deal. It's not what we want. I'd love to be a size large. I want a magic drug that lets me buy clothes in any store, not just ones that carry XL. But we aren't there yet. If we want that, we'll have to do all the hard work we've tried so many times before and failed at. But at least we get the first 10% for free. Well, not for free, and this brings me to my last point. Wegovy is super expensive. Sure, I'm a tech bro with great health insurance. I can afford it even if I have to pay for it myself. So don't cry for me, Argentina. But you may not be as lucky. So how can you get it? Now, if you live outside the USA, I have no idea and can't help you. You probably have to pay some doctor and then travel to the US and get the prescription. I have no idea. You better be rich. That's all I do know. Now, if you're in the USA, I'm going to assume you have a job with health care or you have Obamacare and are under a health insurance plan. If you don't have health insurance, you are screwed and you better have the cash. If you do have insurance, it probably doesn't cover weight loss. Weight loss isn't required under the Obamacare legislation, and most employers don't want to pay for anything not required by law. Call your insurance company to be sure. Or drive an ice pick in your eye, because honestly that sounds like more fun. But it's less productive, so you better call. Okay, now if you're covered, great. But if not, all hope isn't lost. If you have other conditions, then there is a chance. You need to find a doctor that will send a letter of prior authorization that says your other condition, which is covered, is related to your weight, and so to treat the other thing, they also need to treat your weight. Now, if this sounds dishonest and really stupid, well, don't hate the player, hate the game. Not all doctors and clinics will play ball with you, especially if you have an HMO. HMOs are both your doctor that wants to keep you healthy and your insurance company that loves making money. Now, every fall in the US, you get to change your health plan. If you have an HMO, that would be the time to dump it and move to a PPO. It is going to cost you more, but probably a hell of a lot less than Wegovy will. Now, even with a PPO, you're not guaranteed to get a doctor that will play ball. So you may need to do a lot of BS and it might not work. If you have diabetes, it's easier. Just find a doctor that will give you a prescription for the max dosage of Ozempic and you're good to go. By the way, all dosages cost the same, so it doesn't even cost the insurance company more to cover the higher dose. If none of that works for you, then time is on your side. All drugs eventually become generic. In the USA, semaglutide will be available as a generic in 2031. That is a few years away. However, once that happens, the price is going to tumble. In other countries, the generic will be available earlier, so you might be taking twice-a-year vacations to Tijuana to pick up your dosage. You'll be like those Viagra refugees of the 2010s. In addition, there are a bunch of new drugs working their way through the FDA approvals that should work as well or better. I'm sure that as long as there's a huge demand, the price is going to remain high. But eventually, there will be some competition. Drug maker Eli Lilly is actually in trials with a combination weight loss muscle builder, so you lose less muscle and more fat. I've got my eye on that one. If you're on the internet, which I'm sure you are because you are here, you will see that there's a lot of places selling generic semaglutide. Heck, I bet YouTube has some ads on this very page. Some of these are legit places and they are fine, but some aren't. I have no way to know which are good and bad, and I would honestly just stay away. All right, peeps, that's it. All the things you really should know before you consider Ozempic. Now, am I saying you should take it? I have no idea. That's for you and your doctor to discuss. There are reasons to not take it, and there are reasons to take it. Don't forget that increased risk of thyroid cancer. So there could be some long-term bad things happening. While people have been on it for 5 or 7 years, no one's been on it for decades. And anyone who starts it now will have to stay on it for the rest of their lives. I hope you feel a little more educated. In part 4, I'll be talking about what it's like to be on the drug, including the fascinating topic of gastric events. If you've made it this far, it's mandatory to give me the gift of a like. When you give a like, an angel gets its wings. No, I mean YouTube shows it to 10 random people and one of them gets to watch it. So spread the knowledge with me. All you crazy free spirits, go ahead, risk a subscription. Thanks for watching me get this out of my head and into the world.